What a powerful episode that was. So interesting to hear about Dee Dee's experience, particularly her experience in dealing with her depression as part of the Black community and the different barriers, such as not being able to find a therapist of color or a psychiatrist of color that was accessible, and then just also taboos around talking about these
Yeah.
issues. I'm so proud of her. She's so brave to come out and do. She's pioneering work in
Yeah.
this community, and
Yeah.
it's so important.
Yeah. We've gotten comfortable now having these discussions about depression and suicide and all the things. But, I had kind of forgot about this, but my mother dealt with pretty severe depression her whole life. And it wasn't until I had this authentic conversation with Didi that I remembered what it was like to live in a household with someone with very
Mhm.
severe depression. And this girl just puts it all out there for all the generations, for her mother, for her daughters. Like it's real, and people I think people are happy to sort of sling the term around, anxiety, depression, whatever, without really knowing what a toll it can take on a human being.
Yes, yeah, and the family around them. So it's
Yes.
important. It's an important conversation.
Yeah.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
So we're glad that you're joining us for the Warrior Parent Podcast. We do want to let you know that this is a bit of a trigger warning for this episode, which we're going to be talking about some heavy, heavy topics: depression, anxiety with kids, with parents parenting through that, and suicidality, suicide attempts. And so take care of yourself. It's important stuff, and we need to talk about it. The only way we're going to heal it is we talk about it. But take care of yourself if that's particularly triggering for you. All right, so welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. As always, we are thrilled that you're joining us. And today we are talking with Didi Hairston, the creator of the Diva with Depression. And Didi is a talented writer, a public speaker, a podcaster, and a devoted mother. She also serves as the host of the Breaking the Mask podcast. And this experience, this platform, her Diva with Depression platform, offers valuable insights into the daily challenges of living with severe depression. It provides a compelling and genuine perspective on the experience of being mental ill within the Black community. With an unfiltered and authentic approach, the platform exposes and addresses the stigma and the fear surrounding mental illness in Black and Brown communities. And so we're so grateful to have you here, Didi, and to be able to talk about these really important issues.
Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to
Mhm.
be here with you guys. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, this is gonna be a tough day. Let's just be straight out. We're talking about depression. We're talking about suicide. We're talking about all the things. And Dee Dee is courageous to do this work,
Thank
and to
you.
share all of her vulnerabilities with all of you. I spent, a couple of hours with some of Dee Dee's work. She has these beautiful blogs,
Thank you so
authentic
much.
blogs, and she has this podcast. So Dee Dee, if you can share a little bit about your background, about your struggles with depression and mental illness, and then tell us a little bit about how you came to be the diva with depression.
That's a funny story. I've had mental illness probably all my life, but of course it wasn't recognized as that. And my parents didn't acknowledge that. Around 16, that was when I was a doctor first said, you have an ulcer and you are dealing with depression. But I never got help. It wasn't until right before I had my oldest daughter that I saw, the spiral happening. And so after I had her, I just threw myself into motherhood and therapy here and there, medication here and there. But I had my first major breakdown in 2006. And so that's sort of how the darkness has started. And it was an unbelievable experience. And so, fast forward, I had relocated from Charlotte to New Jersey, and I was trying to find culturally compatible psychological care. There was one Black psychologist, she was 40 miles away, and no Black psychiatrist. And so I said, this doesn't make any sense. And then I joined the NAMI chapter there. And I saw also that there was a lack of cultural compatible care, information there. So that's what made me start Diva with Depression. A lot of people started coming to me when I would share bits and pieces, and it was, how do you know that you're depressed? What are the symptoms? And I realized that people don't even know. We're so used to functioning that we don't know that we're in hell. Excuse my French.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh no, you say whatever word works.
Yeah. It blew my mind because how do you know that you're not hurting like that? So I was encouraged by an amazing friend. She was a blogger, and I started the blog first. And then I took a public speaking class, and people started inviting me on their shows. I was overwhelmed with how many people were, asking me to talk and speak. And so the funny story is I am a tomboy and I'm the only girl. So I was football and basketball and everything. And God gave me two daughters, two prissy daughters. And so every time we were somewhere, people would say, here come the divas. And so when I said I was going to start the blog, I said that I was going to include them because they are my whole heart and soul. And so I said, we're going to be deep. I'm going to do a Divas with Depression. And they were like, don't include us in this. And so
whoa, Mom.
I got Diva with Depression because I wanted to make sure that some part of it included my babies.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
Yeah.
I am going to be straight up honest with you. So you talked a lot about the situation with your mother, right? And that your mother had the depression, but because of that time, I think your mother's probably a little bit younger than my mother would have been, but I grew up with a mother with depression, and I didn't know what it was. But just like you said, like, what are some of the signs and symptoms? But it was just, there was lots of sleeping, lots of crying, always in the bathroom. And so I spent my entire childhood, because nobody talked about it, I spent my whole childhood being this overachieving kid, thinking if I could just do all these things, and if I can just do them right, and I can be better than everyone and smarter than everyone, like she'll get better, right? She'll get better. And it wasn't until really probably a couple of years before she passed away. She had a heart disease, but I got in the heart business because of her. And
Okay.
she ended up having open heart surgery. And part of surgery is to take an antidepressant post-surgery. When you crack the sternum, it's a very big deal for people. And
Right.
that was
Oh.
the happiest I ever saw her.
Oh,
The
Wow.
happiest I ever saw
Wow.
her. She was walking on a treadmill every day, recovering. I'm like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, this is my mom, right?
Why did
But
we do this years ago?
right.
yeah,
What
but
a
it feels like such a waste of an
yeah.
entire lifetime. I really know very little about my mother actually because of it, because I was always just afraid I was going to make her cry.
Oh, wow.
Right? Every
I'm sorry.
conversation would come to tears. And so, I haven't even thought about this really much until I listened to you today talk
Yeah,
about
I've never
this.
heard you tell that story before.
Wow.
So
Y-
it's good to talk about these
That's
things.
touching, though.
Yes. So
That is
that's
touching.
that's a tribute to what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
think, you talk about this, the stigma is a big deal. We're going to get into that with the kids, but I think especially for that generation,
Mm.
it's still like you don't talk about it. That's something that
Yeah.
happens in your own house and you don't talk about it, right?
And we
Um,
do. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I guess the difference is that my mother was emotionally abusive along with being depressed.
Mm.
Mm,
And so I never recognized the depression. I just knew that she was being emotionally abusive and she was not, fulfilling her role of motherhood. I've been
Mm.
cooking since I was 7.
yeah.
Ugh,
I was sort of the
wow.
caregiver of my brother.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I understand, when I look back that she had depression, but that's no excuse for bad behavior.
Mm.
Yes.
And so that's another thing that I like to get out to people that, I recognize that this is hard and it's hard to function, but
Yeah.
there's no reason for you to abuse other people because you're hurting. And
Yes.
she did that and she continues to do that. So,
Yeah.
and continues to not accept that she has a mental illness at 80 years old. She's still denying it. So,
Yes.
um, you know,
Yes.
Yeah.
thank goodness you got to see your mom. That's a beautiful story. And I'm sorry you lost her, but thank God you got to see that piece of her,
Yeah.
Yeah.
before she left us.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. So yeah, where do we go from there? Right. So
Right?
we're talking about the stigma you talked about in your conversation about Black and brown communities.
Hmm.
And you're very brave to be doing that. So speak to that specifically. I mean, we sort of see it everywhere, but specific to your community, what do you see?
Well, we have what I call and what everybody calls is just what you said. What goes on in this house stays in this house.
Mm-hmm.
And that the generation before me, I'm not sure how old you guys are, but I'm 55. So my mom's generation, they didn't say anything. They didn't
Right.
address
No.
anything. And of course, my grandparents and great grandparents,
Right.
they're the hush generation. I just saw that somebody said that they're the quiet generation.
Yeah.
And so we carry that forward, and
Yes.
it releases a sense of shame because if I have to keep it a secret, then it must be
Yes.
something wrong with me.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so we carried that part, and then historically you have to think about racism and slavery and different things
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to, as a Black man or a Black woman, um show that there's something wrong, or
Right.
show that you pressures are getting you. You always have
Yeah.
to put on the superhero.
Right.
And
Hmm.
so that's a strike against you to show a
Mm-hmm.
sign of something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that it's a combination of things that keep us from talking about it. And it you know we've lost so many people
Mm-hmm.
because of it. You don't recognize that your mind can control you and your mind can take you out. And so if we keep suppressing it and suppressing it and suppressing it, we're going to explode. And
Yes.
that's what's
Yeah.
happening in our communities.
Yeah.
We're exploding. And even though you have people talking about it here and there, they're not talking about it enough.
Yeah.
When I had my first breakdown, I went into the hospital and they had to call my parents because they wanted to talk about um, whether this was generational, or whether this was
Yeah.
genetic. And my mom said, well, my father has depression. My grandfather was like the other part of my soul. That was my heart and soul, the strongest man that I have ever met in my life till this day. And he had what?
Right.
Depression? No way, not my grandpa.
Right.
And so, that was it. Why wouldn't you tell me that? Why would you wait until I'm in this hospital? Like, I
Yeah.
almost died. I'm in the hospital, and you wait until now to say that there's a possibility that, you have depression or anxiety.
Yeah.
And so that sort of sets the tone. That's what we do. We don't talk about it.
Right.
And fast forward, it wasn't until I started my platform that other family members started coming to me to say
Right.
that, oh, I have depression. Oh, so and so had depression.
Right.
Finding out that my grandfather and his sisters, like the whole line of them, lived with depression. And cousins coming up to me and like, well, what do I do? And until this day, and that sort of struck a chord in me because I hate to see people hurting, and I hate to see my people hurting. I said I hate to see all people hurting,
Right.
but we have to be honest about the fact that there is access to certain things in other communities that we don't have in our communities.
Yes.
And so that is my hope that by speaking up,
Yeah.
we'll start to have that conversation.
Yeah.
It seems like that's exactly what happened, that you gave everyone else permission to say, hey,
Right,
are we talking about this now? Can we talk about
right,
this? Can we
right,
share? And then I think it's telling and beautiful that people were coming to you for advice and saying, well, how do I know? And where do I
right.
go? And it's so important
It
to,
is.
you
It,
can't heal it if you don't look at it and talk about it and acknowledge it and then
Yeah.
take some steps. So
Yeah.
right.
this idea of
And
not talking about it is,
it's bizarre to me. It's bizarre to me.
yeah,
And I understand, I understand it. I'm
right.
ashamed that I live like this. There are days when the shame can take over.
Mm,
I don't share stuff that, God, like people don't understand that I have this huge platform and there's still stuff that I don't share.
yeah,
I keep secrets.
yeah,
And so I understand, but that a part of you has to step out and get some help.
yeah.
So you
And
can stay here.
I think you have to protect yourself too. So you're
Yeah.
sharing
Yeah.
and you're providing information, but you still,
Right.
when you're just podcasting, you got to be able to protect yourself. Not
Right.
everything is for everyone. So,
Yes.
Exactly.
but the good thing for you is, and that I'm assuming is that then you have a therapist, and I know you have your circle of women. You have people that you
Right.
can go to who have earned your trust and have earned a space in your circle, who are then there for you and able to show up.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's what
And
everybody needs that.
everybody needs that. And
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful that I see, get to talk to women podcasters like yourself,
Mhm.
that are doing the work and
Yeah.
having the conversations and
Yeah.
inviting all of us to have the conversation.
Yes.
That's what I love
Yeah.
Yeah.
to see, because it's very important, especially
We
women.
women are having a moment, and it's about
Listen,
time, because
yeah.
all this bullshit that's going on out there is not our doing.
It
And so
is.
we're ready to say, okay, y'all need to sit down now. Now
Right.
we're gonna fix some things. And you
Yes.
know what? And
Right.
not just women, but Black women are having a moment. And
Yeah.
I think that I'm so impressed and so happy to see how the Black women are really stepping into their power, speaking out, and getting more of a platform after way too long,
Right. Yes.
hundreds of years of being held
Exactly.
down. And I'm just in awe, and I want to support that. And it's yeah, it's so important. There's such richness of knowledge and wisdom, and I'm so grateful to be able to learn about that and hear it.
Yeah. So for so many years, Black women have carried the superwoman mode,
Yes.
lived in, I can do it all. I have to do it all.
Yeah.
And they've done it all,
Yeah.
without talking, without, saying anything.
Yeah.
We're just going to eat it, but we have to keep going.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited that, the past 2 years, um, I even posted this the other day that the superwoman is dead.
Yes.
You don't have to do it all. And if you want to
Yes.
do it all, do it in steps, in pieces,
Yeah.
but take a break,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you don't have to do it all anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's dead.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So speaking of doing it all, you have somehow managed to raise two beautiful daughters,
Oh, thank
um,
you.
while you're
Yeah.
living with this severe depression. So talk about that.
As if
Like,
being a mom isn't hard enough. Yeah.
Right,
yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
I am one of those people that my sister says this all the time. When I had my first daughter, my whole existence was mom.
Mhm.
Like that, nothing else mattered but being
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I was going to do it all for her. And then when my second baby was born, it was just a continuation of being mom. It,
Mhm.
it, but by the time I had my second daughter, I was deep in a spiral. I was
Mhm.
really engulfed in darkness, and I knew that this was different. This wasn't like I had postpartum with my
Mhm.
first
Mhm.
child,
Yeah.
but I knew that this wasn't just postpartum depression. So I fought. I had to fight hard to continue to do the mother thing,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I say I was a single parent in a two-parent home.
Mm.
My ex did whatever he wanted to do, whatever he
Yeah.
didn't want to do. I did everything.
Mhm.
And so I was just in it. I was just in it, guys. I
Yeah.
didn't, stop to think, well, I shouldn't be doing this or I'm hurting. I
Mm-mm.
just did it.
Just
And
survival, right?
yeah,
Just,
and
yeah.
I talk about it because I don't want people to think that it is a badge of honor, but it's not, because this is where it gets you.
Right.
And so, we got to the point where my oldest daughter told her dad that I wasn't driving safely anymore,
Mm.
because my wheels were turning and medication wasn't working and the depression
Mhm.
was just getting more and more intense. And then my oldest daughter started to, have to do more with her sister, like, let me
Mhm.
watch my sister a little bit more. So it was difficult. Like I told you guys, I put myself on a schedule, you know, put the kids on the bus and then take my medication and sleep all day, and then
Mhm.
get up and, pick them up and do the Girl Scouts and the PTA. And
Yeah.
till this day, I have no idea how I do the things I do. I really don't. I don't.
Yeah.
My sister said that the other day, like, I don't know how you do it.
Mhm.
Um, so, by the time what made me really pay attention to what was going on is my oldest daughter. If she was scared, then I knew that we were, at a place where I
Mm.
was in danger.
Mhm.
Um, and so, you know, I just kept going to work and doing, doing the things and doing the things until I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Not taking care of my hair, not taking care of my hygiene, not, you
Mm.
know, doing
Yeah.
everything. The only thing that I saved energy for was my babies. The
Yeah.
only thing that kept me alive was my babies. And that I say that often. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't still be here.
Mm.
And that was my motivation, being a
Yeah.
mommy, and I didn't want to hurt them. And I knew that if I left,
Yes.
they would be hurting.
Yes.
Or if I left, their dad wasn't doing much. So what the hell is going to happen to them after I
Right.
leave?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was really, there's no pretty way to put it. I just
Yeah.
hustled and hustled and hustled
Yeah.
until I broke.
So
Mhm.
now your daughters also deal with depression,
Yes,
correct? Yeah.
yes. I have, both of my daughters are adults. I have a 30-year-old and a 24-year-old.
Mm.
Mhm.
And the oldest daughter, her bout started pretty early on, and
Mhm.
by the time she got to be a senior in high school, it was a struggle. So, I had to take her to school every day. I had to pick her up every day. I had to help her, with her homework and stuff because I understood, like you
Yeah, what she
cannot
was going through.
concentrate,
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but one of the things that we all struggle with is that we sometimes we confuse, and I know my mother did it, my father did it, the teenage
Right.
angst and
Yes.
attitude.
Mhm.
We're just like,
That's
oh, they're
real.
just being
Yeah.
teens, right?
Right.
So we don't, we'll miss it. We will miss it. And
Yeah.
I did, I missed it big time, even though I knew the signs and I knew that she was depressed. I said, well, it's a mix of, she doesn't want to socialize and, somebody's talking about her. She was, people were really mean to her. And
Mhm.
so I sort of missed the cues until she said to me one day that she took pills. And
Mm.
I stood in the hospital and I couldn't believe that I was here because I'm mom. Like I'm their everything. I always let them know that they can come to me with anything.
Yeah.
And so by the time she got to the hospital, I found out that this was the 8th time
Ugh.
that she
Wow.
tried it. And
Wow.
that changed my life forever because
Yes.
um, how was I in the same house and I didn't know that my baby was
Yeah.
struggling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, after that, I'm not going to say they got better. It had its ups and downs,
Mhm.
but um, I want to say that scared the shit out of her, excuse me.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
as psych wards can, just really,
Yeah.
mess you up.
Yeah.
And so she started to go to therapy and take medication and sort
Yeah.
of regulate it and be more open with me about
Yeah.
where she was.
Yeah.
And I think that me sharing more of my darkness
Yeah.
helped her at that time.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
sure.
my baby did not show any signs.
Mm.
She was, of course, the overachiever.
Mm.
She was in theater, which is why we relocated. So she was in a major theater program
Mm.
and just performing and hustling and
Yeah.
whatever. And I would notice that she would come home and go to her room and that was it.
Mhm.
Again, is this being a teenager? Is she
Right.
being
Right.
bullied
Right.
or what? Um, and so got accepted to 7 colleges. She picked the one that she wanted, and she goes off to college. And I got a call about 6 months in, mid semester, that she had tried to take her
Mm.
life, and I'm 13 hours away.
Yeah.
She was in Boston, and so
Mm.
again, how the hell did we get here?
Yeah.
You know, and so when I got to her, because of course we drove through the night, um, I realized that again we're stuffing stuff,
Yes.
and her and her sister are extremely close, um,
Mhm.
but she was out there by herself,
Yeah.
and she didn't have us, and
Didn't have our support
face
system.
yeah
Yeah.
FaceTime doesn't help, when
Yeah.
you're in those
Y-
places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, like I said, you deal with the mom guilt
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you missed the signs, and because I am so vocal about my mental illness and where I'm at. I feel like a loser because I couldn't help my own children. I missed something in
Mm.
my own children,
Yeah.
and it's difficult, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Like I told you guys, I still apologize to this day in some
Yeah.
cases. Like if I ever
Yeah.
did anything, please. Um,
Yeah.
and so the youngest is in California now, and she does struggle still. Hers
Mhm.
is more
Yeah.
intense, but
Mm.
again, she knows that she gets help and she does what she has to do to get
Yeah.
help
Pull
and
herself
Yeah.
out of it.
control
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I wanted to ask you, we don't have a ton of time, but I wanted to ask you about medications specifically, I know there was a term you gave yourself that like no medications work. Like there's 50 of them for depression. You've tried
Right.
them all and not one of them work. So and then with kids, it can be dangerous, right? It
Yeah.
can make things worse. So what sort of advice can you give for parents who are like, I don't know what to do. We try this med and then we try that med and then,
Mhm.
right? So what's the advice on those
Uh,
terms?
I think that what we have to remember is that there's no cure for mental illness. It doesn't matter
Yes.
what pill they create.
Yes.
You're going to, maintain. There are pills that are going to maintain, but there's no cure.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
and the medications are so fickle. You get a medication today, and it's like, oh well, let me know in 6 to 8 weeks how it's going.
Yeah.
But in the middle of the 6 to 8 weeks, the side effects are nausea,
Yeah.
vomiting, suicidal thoughts, and blah, so on and so forth.
Right.
And you're like, what? This is supposed to make me feel better. And so I get that parents are hesitant to put their children on medication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm a huge advocate for it because even if you get them something, say the anxiety, the ADHD,
Right.
which really, occurs with mental illness, but say you can get them a low dose of something that's going to help them concentrate, help
Mhm.
them
Right.
socialize, help them
Yeah.
excel. That takes away the big part, you know. Um, and so I think that you have to read the side effects. You have to be very vigilant, with the doctor and stuff like that. But like I said, if you can take a little bit of something to
Yeah.
give them this much,
Just or
then it's
some
worth it.
relief,
Some
right?
relief.
Just right.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
And
because
sometimes it can just take
whew,
them through a rough patch
right,
to where they could be a little more empowered. But
exactly.
I appreciate you sharing that, it's not necessarily a cure. It's how do you live with this is part, I think you said in one of your podcasts, is part of being human for a lot of people. And so, and well, a lot of times we do tend to want to just not look at the darkness, look at the light, make yourself feel better, and I'm for sure guilty of that. And both of my kids have dealt with depression, anxiety,
Okay.
and even suicidality. And so I'm learning from my son, and my kids are a little bit close. I'm 58, older than you are, but
Okay.
my kids are 20, 29. I don't know, I might be wrong on that. And like 26. So my
Okay.
younger son, he's to a place now, and I think Debbie and I love this generation. And I've heard you say the same, like they're fantastic. They're more aware and they're able to say, here's what I need from you now, or stop trying to fix me, or, so
Right.
right now I just need to talk about this and I just would like you to listen. And so that's
Exactly.
been a tough one for me. Then I'm like, okay, yes, I hear you. Now, yeah, you and now would you like advice from me, or did you just want to talk and then be
Right.
willing to hear the answer? So
And
and I
that's
think
beautiful.
it is beautiful.
That's
I love
beautiful.
it. And I
Yep.
think that is part of exactly what you've talked about on your podcast, this healing. And this is, I swear I say this every podcast now. When you heal yourself, you're healing backwards and you're healing forward. So you're healing back
Right.
to your ancestors, to your wonderful grandfather, and then forward for your daughters and for their daughters. And
Right.
that's why we do the work. That's why it's so
Right.
important.
But don't take away from you guys because now you have grown to the point
Mm,
where you can say, okay, I'm going to take my mom hat off and I'm going to be the listener.
yeah.
That you have grown and become so amazing that you say, do you want me to give you advice?
Mm.
Do you want me to fix it or do you want
Yeah.
me to just listen? Because
Yeah.
we didn't have that. We
No,
did
No.
it
not
was
have
not
that.
No.
modeled. It was
No,
not
we
Not
didn't.
at
modeled.
all. Not
So
at
we
all.
can learn it
So,
and then we can model it. And
right,
yeah, yeah,
right. So
yeah,
you guys are amazing because those are the hats you wear now,
yeah.
Yeah.
and that's important for our
Thank you,
kids.
Didi.
It doesn't end at 18.
No,
We're parents for life. And
that's right. That's right.
if they're struggling, then we're going to fix it. So you
Yeah.
guys are amazing.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Didi.
Well, oh
Right
my
back
gosh.
at you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just want to give a shout out for your courage and your
Yes.
bravery. Like this is
Thank you so much.
really, really hard stuff.
Yeah.
I hope it helps those who are listening to understand more about depression. It's not just like, oh, go, get out of bed and get some sunshine and
Get
take a
over it.
pill, get a pill. Yeah,
Yeah. None of
that's
that is
not it. That's
right.
Not at
not it,
all.
No.
right?
Not at all.
And so, my goodness, it takes a tremendous amount of effort and vulnerability to do what you're doing right now. And
Yeah.
I'm super grateful for your
Oh,
time.
thank you. But
Yeah.
thank you for you guys, because you guys started at a generation that, with the younger generation, and that's going to help millions of people going forward. So thank you for what you do. That's
Yeah.
so important.
Thank you for saying that. That's
Oh.
that's what we're trying to do. That's where we are. That's where our hearts are. So yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, if there's anything that I
Okay.
can ever help you with, as far as that's concerned, you just let me know.
Oh, we will
I'm
likely take you up on that. So thank you for the offer.
I
We
love
would love
the
that.
babies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Wow, wonderful.
how can people
Yeah.
find all your amazing blogs and your podcast? Tell
Yeah.
people where they can find you.
Everything is at divawithdepression.com.
Okay.
The blogs, sometimes I'm slow with them, but all of the information is there. I am
Mhm.
Diva with Depression on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook. I'm even on TikTok.
Good for
Much.
you.
Oh my goodness.
We didn't go that far.
Yeah.
It was a fluke. My girls are always on it, so I was like, let me
Yeah.
just do it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, and breaking the mask of depression, I didn't even say that, is my
Yeah.
podcast,
Yes.
and that I release episodes every Friday. And they're on Podbean, but you can also have access to them at the website or Linktree.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. Go
Beautiful.
listen to that. There's some really wonderful content on
Oh,
there.
thank you so much.
Mhm,
Thank you so
mhm.
much. Yeah.
Thanks
And
so
I
much.
Okay.
appreciate you guys having me. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah.
It's our pleasure. And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters. So now I encourage you to place your feet flat on the floor. If you happen to be outside, I encourage you to take your shoes off and put your feet into the ground, feeling that grounding energy. If you're inside or somewhere where you don't want to take your shoes off, that's okay too. You can still put your feet flat on the ground and feel into Mother Earth. Receive a deep breath in through your nose. Fill your lungs and your belly. And then release that breath. Today, let's open ourselves up to guidance, to our intuition, to what we are meant to know today. Sit in silence for just a moment and allow any insight, any ideas, any inspiration to just drop in. And when it does, sit with it. Keep yourself from immediately doubting or denying or saying, oh no, that's not for me. If it dropped in, it's meant to be looked at. Take a moment and look at it. Sometimes things will come in later when you open your mind. If something doesn't drop in right now, no worries. Just stay open. Thank you for pausing for yourself today. Your mental health is important, and you deserve peace, calm, and ease in your life every day. So please choose to receive it. It is always available right at your center, your heart, your core. Stay well, friends. Thank you for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast. You can find us at coreexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Thanks to Samuel Hale LLC for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beaton. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. The Warrior Parent Podcast is a production of Cour Experience. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.